Namaste and welcome. It is Rishi here from meditatewithrishi.com, and today we are geeking out on happiness. Today is a really important video. I want to share with you fundamental truths from the science of yoga about why we are unhappy, the mistakes that we make, and the true way to find everlasting happiness. Okay, so the first truth that I'll share with you might seem a bit obvious, but the second two are where we get really technical and understand this concept really well. Okay, so let's get into it. Before I tell you the three truths, there is some basic yogic science that you need to understand first of all. Okay, so the science of yoga has a very simple understanding of happiness, and it says that happiness is not something that you can get outside of you. Happiness is your true nature. It is actually who you really are. What does that mean? In very simple terms, okay, the example given is that of a clear blue sky and clouds on the surface. So the clear blue sky is us in our true essence, our true spirit. That is the state of pure happiness. And then the clouds represent our thoughts, our constantly chattering, thinking mind. Sometimes the clouds are grey, sometimes they're white, sometimes, it's really dark, really black. But ultimately, whatever kind of clouds there are, they are blocking us from seeing what lies beyond that clear blue sky. So our thoughts, essentially, our chattering mind, is blocking us from experiencing our true nature, which is pure happiness, according to the science of yoga. Okay, so having understood this, let's look at three fundamental truths about happiness that we are getting wrong, even though we may know them intellectually. Number one is that nothing outside of you can give you happiness. This simply means that, we live our lives constantly chasing different goals, different desires, right? Think about your life 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you had some very different goals than which you have today. 5 years ago, you believed that achieving those goals will make you completely happy. And by now, you probably have achieved a lot of them. But what's happened now is that you have new goals and you have new desires, right? So the goals keep shifting, but happiness remains out of reach. Now, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have goals or desires. No, that's not the point. The point is to not mistake them as a source of lasting happiness. We should already be happy and then have goals and live life to the fullest. Okay, so that's number one. Nothing outside of you can make you happy because you'll constantly be shifting, looking for the next new thing. Okay, the second one, this one is one that is less popular but is really important. The second one is that the mind is not a source of happiness. The mind cannot be a source of happiness. Here's where I'm going to tell you the technicality from the science of yoga, okay? So, first of all, just take this example, because you're probably thinking that, wait, hold on, that's not true. I do feel happy when I achieve a goal, when I get something I want. I do feel happy, okay? So let's look a bit deeper into this. Let's say that you have the goal of buying a brand new BMW, okay? You work hard for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and you actually go ahead and buy that BMW. When you buy it, you are incredibly happy. A lot of happiness is running through you, right? You finally did it. Let's say a couple of days later, you see that your neighbor or your workmate has actually got a better version of that car. Immediately, your happiness turns into jealousy. It turns into jealousy, and now all that work you put in for 3 years or 5 years is gone, because your happiness is now jealousy. Even if that doesn't happen, right? Even if you're not jealous of anybody else, just a month after purchasing that car, the amount of happiness that it gives you diminishes, diminishes, diminishes until you're actually not deriving any happiness from it. It's just like having your old car. There's no difference. Now you have a new goal, a new desire. You are back on the rat wheel, chasing the next illusion of happiness, right? So the reason I gave this example, because this is a common example, but the truth is that this example is very similar to a smoker, okay? When a smoker smokes a cigarette, I've been there, right? When a smoker smokes a cigarette, they feel like they're enjoying the cigarette. They're not enjoying the cigarette. They are essentially feeling relieved because they're suffering. That craving for that cigarette has gone momentarily. But after an hour or two, the craving will come back, and again they'll be craving, and they'll have a cigarette and they'll think they're enjoying it. They're not enjoying the cigarette. They're just enjoying the relief of suffering. Right? This is what addiction is, essentially. So it's the same thing with the car example. When you don't have the car, you're suffering because you want that car, you want that car. The moment you get that car, it's great for a bit, but very soon, again, you desire something else, right? You get the idea. So what yogic science tells us is that the mind is not a source of happiness. There are only 5 types of thought waves, according to yogic science. There is correct knowledge, incorrect knowledge, verbal delusion, sleep, and memory. Okay? Everything we speak about comes within these 5 thought waves. These thought waves, it is said, can be a source of pain or a source of no pain. They can be a source of pain or a source of no pain. They cannot be a source of happiness, because happiness does not lie in the mind. It lies when the mind stops, when the mind stops, essentially. Like the sky, the clear blue sky is always there, but when the clouds are covering it, we can't see it. The moment the clouds clear, we can see it was already there, always there, the clear blue sky. In the same way, in your natural state, without that constantly chattering mind asking you to chase this desire or run away from this fear, you are actually pure happiness. This is what the science of yoga is saying. So now we come to the most important truth number 3, which is that it is only when the mind stops that you can be truly happy. It is only when the mind stops that you can be truly happy. Now, let's understand this very simply. When we say the mind stops, it doesn't mean that you have to be in a deep state of meditation with no thoughts. No. When we say the mind stops, it means that it stops being your master, but it remains as your servant, which means that the mind is not taking you in different directions, but when you want to use it, it's there. A perfect analogy for this is your mobile phone. When your phone is on, right? At any moment, anything can happen. Somebody can call you, you can get notifications from Instagram, from Facebook, from email, WhatsApp. You know, you're trying to do some work, it can just call at you any moment and ask for your attention. That's how our mind is. At any moment, you try to do something, to think in a certain way. Anxieties come, fears come, worries come, expecting your attention. But if you choose to put your phone on airplane mode, now nothing can come through. Now you can do what you want to do, right? And when you want to use it, you simply turn it off airplane mode, you use it for what you want, and you put it back on airplane mode. That's incredible. You are the master, the phone is your servant. Normally the opposite is true. The phone is the master. It's telling you what to do. Reply to this, check this, right? So your mind can be put on airplane mode. Your mind can be made as such that only when you want to use it, you can use it. It's not constantly bombarding you with anxieties and fears and worries, thoughts of past, desires of the future. And the way to do this, the only way to do this is training in meditation. Meditation is the path, it is the practice that will enable you to master your mind, to truly become a master of your mind, so you can use it when you want to, and when you don't want to use it, you are not disturbed by it. You are in your natural state, the state of pure happiness, the state of true happiness, essentially. This is really, really powerful, really, really powerful. Your entire life and the amount of peace that you feel at every moment can change if the mind is trained in meditation. So I really hope that this makes sense. I'll tell you the 3 truths again. The first one is that nothing outside of you can give you happiness. The second one is that your mind is not a source of happiness. Even when you feel happy, it is just a relief from suffering. It is not true happiness because it can change at any moment. True happiness can be there when the mind stops being your master but remains as your servant, essentially. And this simply means that when you want to sleep, you can sleep. You're not constantly thinking. When you want to wake up early, you can wake up. There's nobody telling you that, no, I'm tired, I want to continue sleeping. You are the master and the mind is your servant. When this happens, you are in yoga and you are essentially in a state of peace, in a state of bliss. So that is it. Thank you very much for listening. And of course, let me put this out there as well. If you want to learn how to meditate properly, then this is something that I teach through one-to-one sessions. Just send me an email at rishi@meditatewithrishi.com and we can arrange to have a session. Thank you very much for listening. Namaste.